Hey everyone. My goal with this video is to start a discussion around change and new content being added to Diablo 2 Resurrected. I know that this video will probably be polarizing and there's going to be a bunch of people screaming at me in the comments, but I also understand that those comments are coming from a place of love for the game. I would also like to preface this by saying that even though I have thousands of hours in ARPGs from Diablo 1, Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Path of Exile, Grim Dawn, etc., I'm by no means an expert in what makes an ARPG fun. Because of this, I've spent quite a bit of time sifting through forums, videos, and modded versions of Diablo 2 to get a better idea of what types of changes people would like to see, and I'm going to try my best to list them here for you. And lastly, I would like to say that these changes would only be good if the developers added them to a separate version of the game, with different ladders and or servers. This way the purists get the version they want to play, and everyone else that would like to see changes gets the exciting and fresh new version they want to play. Balance changes. Of course, everyone's idea of what's balanced is different from one another, but the general consensus is buff the stuff that's bad and bring them more in line with the stuff that's good. I can get behind this thought process. It would open up more build diversity and make new seasons more exciting, assuming that they do some sort of balance pass every season. Reduced or removed stamina. I understand that there are some intricacies here with your block chance when you're running or walking, but plenty of modded servers have removed the block penalty and have completely removed stamina or reduced it, and I find it to be a much more enjoyable experience. Charm inventory. Currently, the argument some people have against this is that you need to think about what charms you have in your inventory, and whether you want to sacrifice having less charm space for more inventory space. But what typically ends up happening is most players fill their inventory with charms, except for a small area where they keep their tomes and the Herodric Cube for loot space. This idea that inventory Tetris is some complex game mechanic where you need to make hard decisions about what's in your inventory, it's just false. No one ever thinks the decisions to be made here are hard. It's just an inconvenience. With a separate charm inventory, you still end up with a fixed number of spaces for charms and the decisions to make about what charms to put there, but you'll actually be able to do what the game wants you to do, which is pick up loot. Also, imagine using your cube for extra space on consoles. Gross. Stackable gems and runes. I personally don't see a change like this having a major impact on gameplay, and overall, it'd be a nice quality of life feature. I have seen some suggestions on stackable potions as well, but I'm not entirely sure where I stand on that. If they only mean stackable in your inventory and not on your belt too, then it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal either. I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are on stackable potions though, or just stackable items in general. Personal loot. This one is definitely a touchy subject. If personal loot were to be implemented, it shouldn't work the way that it does in Diablo 3, where every player gets their own personal piles of loot, but rather the same exact loot that drops in a free-for-all system still drops, but you only get to pick up some of it. This way there's no item inflation, and there's still that system of luck where you could be the one to get a really rare item. This feature ideally would be something you could turn off or on when creating a game as well. For me, personal loot doesn't really make or break the game, but I wouldn't be against the idea either. Ladder rune words. Ladder rune words being added to single player is one of the more reasonable requests I've seen, and I can't think of any reason why this shouldn't be a thing. But I'm sure there's someone out there with plenty of reasons why, so make sure to let us know in the comments. The Cow King. Accidentally killing the Cow King or someone else killing him in a game you're in is a real buzzkill, and it just creates a headache for you when you want to farm cow levels. Killing the Cow King shouldn't prevent you from being able to create more cow levels, and seeing as how there's still workarounds to get into them, I see no problem with this being added as a new feature. The end game. I've seen tons of posts with different ideas as to what type of content should be added to make the end game experience more enjoyable, but it's hard to pinpoint which one would be the best fit. I think a few new dangerous dungeon type areas would be a good place to start though. Sprinkle in some rare items that you can only get from these areas, and I think we're well on our way to a better endgame. Or maybe you're just really fond of farming Bale. But I'm interested to hear what your thoughts and ideas are for the endgame. Drop rates. Because the developers have shared their plans for shorter seasons, I've come across a ton of complaints about how it will be impossible to gear your character in time due to how rare some items and runes are. So I could see where increasing drop rates for specific items and runes could help alleviate this problem, but it would really need to be done with a light touch. Enigma and Teleport. I, along with many others, find teleport spamming to be obnoxious and far from interesting gameplay. I think the mod for Diablo 2, Path of Diablo, does a pretty good job explaining some of the reasons why teleports can be problematic. The response to the question, "I heard you changed Enigma's teleport," is yes, Enigma is a problematic rune word because every character in the game needed one. It meant that other body armors were rarely used and hurt the diversity of that item slot. It also messed with the value of the Enigma runes such that characters who want to make other rune words with those runes had to work even harder. To solve this, we have changed Enigma's teleport to another teleport skill with a short cooldown. We've also added more movement-oriented skills to other classes so that a teleport skill does not feel mandatory. I honestly think that a big reason why teleport even feels necessary is because a lot of the endgame revolves around you trying to get to the boss room as quickly as possible just to farm that boss over and over again. If there were proper endgame farming areas, then I think the lack of teleport spam probably wouldn't even be noticed. New items and rune words. Of course, there have been a ton of suggestions about what new items or rune words should be added, but honestly, I would just be happy with anything new, as long as it isn't a bunch of class-specific sets. More crafting. A lot of modded servers have added more crafting options to Diablo 2. One of the most common ones I've seen on these modded servers is the option to corrupt your item for the chance of new effects, but at the risk of potentially losing that item in the process. This is obviously straight out of Path of Exile's playbook, but it's just one example of the many ways that new crafting options can be added into the game. New skills. New skills would broaden the choices a player has in terms of build diversity and offer utility that some classes might be lacking. One example I've seen of this is a cooldown-based teleport that a necromancer has that's really useful for getting all your minions back together because their AI is so wonky. Next up, there's immunities. Nerfing some immunities or giving players more options to break immunities via items or skills would make the game feel a little less clunky and more enjoyable, I think. It would also have the nice side effect of making more builds viable and eliminating the need for friends to lower resistances for you. Because I mean, not everyone has friends. And lastly, we have skill inputs. On the webpage for Resurrected, you can see an image showing what the skill bar looks like for the console version of the game, and there's a total of 6 different skills with their own unique inputs. I've seen a ton of people asking for this feature to be added to PC, and while I think it would be nice, we're most likely already going to be able to assign all our skills to whatever keys we want. So if this is the case, then the only difference between the console and the PC would just be the way the UI is displaying your skills. But in the end, guys, balance changes, new items, new content, and quality of life features aren't necessarily going to ruin Diablo 2. What makes D2 such a great game is that you don't need a master's in mathematics to make a functional build, but the game also doesn't hold your hand along the way. This gives the players a sense of accomplishment that I think most modern ARPGs have yet to replicate. And look, we already know there's going to be mod support, so the developers could just release Resurrected as it is and let all the creativity and changes fall in the hands of the modders, and that would be fine. But I just think with a beautiful remaster such as this one, it would be a missed opportunity to not let a team with the passion, skills, budget, and resources like Vicarious Visions expand on one of the best games ever made. And even if it turns out to be a steaming pile of trash, there will always be the 1.14D version. Thanks for watching, guys. If you haven't already, make sure you check out my video where I go over 18 new features added into Diablo 2 Resurrected. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe for more gaming related content. Take care, everyone.